Good morning and welcome everyone to introduce Investor Days. My name is Jesper Birch Jensen and I work as an equity research analyst here at ABG, focusing on the gaming space and software space as well. Today we have approximately 36 companies presenting. We'll start at 8 o'clock this morning and end at 5 p.m. this afternoon. You'll be able to view all of the presentations here on the live stream, but you'll also be able to view them on introduce.se afterwards. Starting off today, we have the CEO of Remedy Entertainment, Tero Virtala, presenting. So without further ado, please go ahead, Tero.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tero Virtala. I'm the CEO of Remedy. We can go to the first slide on Remedy. Okay, now we are on slide 2. So what is Remedy? As we say it, we are a category-defining creative super developer. What we mean with this is that there are a number of gaming companies in the world. But when we look at the big AAA gaming developers who have the capability of develop high quality, high production value, fully priced games, there aren't that many of those, approximately 150 game studios in the world. And out of those, it isn't many who, in addition to capabilities of creating high quality games, can actually also create world-class gaming brands, new franchises, new worlds, new characters, new stories that set up a long-lasting brand. We are one of those creators, and out of these brands, we can develop distinctive benchmark-setting games. In addition to that, most of the world's AAA gaming studios, high-quality developers, but they are focused on one single team, so have capability to develop one high-quality game at a time. As I will be telling you, we have systematically transformed and developed Remedy in a direction where we truly have the multi-project capabilities, ability to develop multiple games in parallel. In addition to being a developer, we have been constantly developing our capabilities to also self-finance and self-publish some of our games while partnering and being a good partner with some games with world-class publishers. We are a highly attractive home to world-class talents, and we have been building all the above all the time systematically by being a profitable growth company who also manages its risks well. We can go to slide number 3. So our games, as I just shortly said, are based on our strengths that we have been building now for 26 years. Games in immersive worlds, interesting characters, memorable stories built around these characters in these worlds, and then this all is combined with polished action gameplay. We can go to the next slide. So when we look at our games, they are games for PC and console platforms. As we say, they are big screen games for core gamers. Most well-known games in the past, Max Payne, Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and most recently Control. Games that have been selling well, but have also received big amount of industry awards, winning Game of the Year awards, many of them. We can go to slide number 5. That was the background who Remedy is, and as I said, we have been around for a long time. But for the first 20 years, we were focused on the pretty standard model that many high-quality game developers, game studios are. Having one big team, one really robust leadership team for the game projects, but a company organized in a way that it had capabilities to only develop one game at a time. But then in 2016, we started crafting our future strategy that after 20 years, what should be the Remedy for the next 10 years to come? What should be the way how we could materialize much more growth, much more possibilities for our people, and also bigger ambitions for our future games. And we started a bigger transformation. We set ourselves a new strategy with the intention to really enable long-lasting, much bigger growth than we had seen in the past. And that new strategy was built on 3 core pillars. One was the creative one, that yes, we would continue creating games on top of our strengths of world building, character stories, and action gameplay, but we would develop competencies around these that would allow us to develop games that would be step by step longer lasting and longer engaging. That was clearly the direction where the market was heading, and that was clearly what was still missing from us to create the much bigger hits that we know we are capable of. The second big pillar in our future strategy in 2017 was set to be the operational transformation from single project organization to multi-project, which has required a lot of organizational changes, process changes, developing new leadership teams, new ways of working for our game production teams. And then when we would do the multi-project change, we would be able to do the third business transformation, because in the past we had mainly been, for the past 5 years from 2012 to 2017, we had been focusing on one single project, and that was the subcontracting project. Now we wanted to get higher up in the value chain, so basically with the multi-project model, while we could have only a selected subcontracting project, with the other projects we could go back into creating our own IPs, own brands, and by doing that, then of course having a bigger upside on the successes that these games would create. Then slide number 6, please. And this first phase lasted about 3 years, and in end of 2019, we could proudly say that we had successfully completed the first phase of the transformation based on these 3 pillars. 2020, we have continued work on that, continued to improve, and can say that many things have now been built in order to have this ability for the longer term future growth. Instead of having one game project in 2020, we had 5 main games in development. Those were divided into 15 bigger sub-projects, which all provided different opportunities for us. And altogether, these have delivered our games to 10 different gaming platforms, gaming subscription and streaming platforms on the PC and console space. Our internal talent pool has grown from 120 people to close to 300 people, and we have been able to build much more scalability also by developing our ways how we plan, manage, lead our game projects, and therefore how we are able to then also use much more external development, especially on the labor-heavy parts, implementation, execution on the later phases of the game development when it's all about execution. And last year we had over 30 external development partners, out of whom over 350 people were working for our game projects. Then slide number 7, please. And then when we look in a bit more detail on the games we have been working on, we have Control, the game that we launched in 2019. That's an IP brand owned by us. It has been a collaboration with 505 Games. Then we have a project team working with Korean gaming company Smilegate on a hugely successful Crossfire brand. That is the only subcontracting-based project that we have ongoing. Then we have 2 unannounced game projects with Epic Games, games based on our IP, our brand. And then we have our multiplayer initiative, Vanguard project, which we are developing. We can go to slide number 8. Shortly on each of these games. So Control launched in August 2019. It was a very important driver for our multi-project development. Control was the second project, the second game team that we started building in 2017. It was driving many of the changes that we needed to build for the company. We were able to then finalize Control in 3 years with the development budget of approximately 30 million euros. Control launched in August 2019, has won number of industry awards, being nominated as Game of the Year by highly respected game media. It has sold well. So Control reached 2 million sold units last December, and it continues to sell well. As an example, 15 months after the launch in November 2020, Control sold most units in digital channels than it had ever sold, and it's continuing to do that. Then slide number 9, please. Then in relation to Crossfire, we have been now collaborating with Smilegate almost for 5 years. Smilegate is the owner of Crossfire franchise, which is one of the biggest free-to-play PC games in the world. It's a over 10-year-old gaming brand, cross revenues typically over $1 billion per year, especially well known in the Asian marketplace and China specifically. Smilegate started to consider that what should be the longer-term future for Crossfire. They had both global ambitions, but also ambitions to build the big successes for the next decades to come. And in addition to continuing to build the multiplayer-based service games that they had done, they saw a need to expand the Crossfire universe to provide their players deeper stories that would build more emotional attachment for the players, help to explain the world, help to create the connections for the players with the locations, with the factions, with the characters, and they chose to collaborate with us. Now this year, finally, these new games are launching. So Smilegate is launching Crossfire HD in collaboration with Tencent in the Chinese market, and that's a continuation to the currently existing hugely successful Crossfire game. And then Crossfire X is a new console game in the Crossfire franchise, launching for Xbox platforms with Microsoft this year. And both of these games will include our Remedy-created single-player campaigns. And when these launch, it then also means that we naturally have been paid for the work we have done. But on top of that, depending on the success of these games and how our single-player campaigns are perceived, we have a royalty upside. How big those royalties will be when they will start realizing, we don't yet know, but the fact is that with these big games, they can be significant if all goes well. So it's a good upside. Then slide number 10, please. Then we have the 2 games in development with Epic Games. There is a bigger AAA gaming project and a smaller project. They are both based on the same IP brand created by Remedy, and we are the owners of that brand. It's a really good deal, shows in part how the gaming industry has developed. It has continued to grow, but there is a growing demand both for high-quality AAA games and high-quality developers, but at the same time, there seems to be less and less developers. It's really slow and difficult to build new AAA developers, and with the consolidation, there is less and less independent developers available to collaborate with those parties that don't have so many internal studios. That has created a situation when our type of developers, high-quality developers, can actually close really lucrative and good deals. Our deal with Epic was a good example of that Epic is fully funding the development, so taking all the financial risk. We are developing the games for console and PC platforms. Epic has committed also to quite significant, over 10 million euro marketing budgets for these games. And then when these games launch, Epic can take first their investments from the revenues created, but rest of the revenues, the net revenues, will be shared 50-50 between us and Epic. Then slide number 11, please. So then our 4th project is Vanguard. Remedy has been typically known, or Remedy has always been known, for high-quality single-player games. But the action gameplay know-how that we have built and the world building capabilities that we have, those can be expanded to other type of games as well. We see that there is a lot of opportunities as the industry keeps on growing with single player games. But at the same time, with our multi-project model, we can also expand selectively to different genres areas. Multiplayer games are growing, but it's a highly competed, almost bloody market. It is especially in player versus player, team versus team games. We studied the market closely and saw an opportunity in long-lasting service-based collaborative co-op multiplayer games. In order to create long-lasting games into that space, there are certain challenges that need to be solved. That is the biggest reason why there is less competition, but still few highly successful games. We set up a new vanguard team with people experience from multiplayer games to try to sort out, try to solve that what would be the type of collaborative multiplayer game that we could make that would be unique enough and differentiated enough for the market, but which could still utilize our unique skills of world building, characters and stories. It has been a slow progress. We have been developing the game now for 2 years. And in 2020, that development started to show some good early progress, and we have slowly started to ramp up the team. Now the team had 20 people at the end of last year. Now we have been continuing to grow the team step by step. It's still in a fairly early phase, but an interesting opportunity that we are taking further. Then let's go to slide number 12, please. Just shortly on the market. So our market focus has stayed the same for a long, long time. When we look at the bigger market, we are focused on the console and PC games, games for core gamers, as we say, big screen games for gamers. It basically means PlayStation platforms, Xbox, Nintendo Switch is an interesting platform. PC platforms have been expanding, and now the cloud and subscription services are further expanding this part of the market. And this is what we know. This is what we are known for. This is where most of our strengths lie. And that has been our focus for a long time and continues to be. Then the slide number 13. We introduced, as I said, we had our first phase of transformation done from 2017 to 2019, 2020. We spent some time improving and polishing some parts, building certain competencies further. And we introduced an updated strategy last December. And basically, this strategy, in addition to having, of course, internally more detailed action plans, it sets our long-term objectives for the 2025, and we aim to create with our multi-project model several successful games as we have been doing so far and continue building bigger successful games in the future. And the aim is that when we do everything right, when the quality is there, when they are unique enough, when the marketing has been handled well, when we step by step grow on the shoulders of the previous games that we have done, the likelihood of creating at least one major hit game grows. And in our industry, that can mean significant revenues and profits. No one can forecast exactly what this game is, but with all the games we have chances for that. And that is definitely a concrete objective for us, that we are creating several successful games and at least one major hit game. A game that can reach the global top-selling charts and stay up there. We continue building our brands further, and we will own at least 3 expanding game brands that all have long-term hit potential. We continue developing our commercial capabilities so that for each of the games, we have the full freedom and ability to decide whether we self-finance and self-publish our games, or if there is a bigger opportunity with certain games to working with globally leading publishing partners. in a way, we are a creative organization, a highly professional one. We have been a highly lucrative place for the top class talent in the world. And the aim is definitely to be the most attractive gaming industry employer in Europe. And we are systematically developing, following our progress towards that. And as said, we have always been a profitable growing, or for the past 10 years, we have been a profitable growing business, always managing the risks, and we are reaching these objectives above by continuing to be that. Then the slide number 14, please. Just shortly, that in 2019, we first time got onto the growth path where we aimed at. In 2020, we continued in that, growing our revenues by 30%, having a good EBIT level of over 30%. And it was especially important that we reached these even though we didn't have any new game launches, that we were able to support the existing game out there, Control, it continued to sell well, and our multi-project model with the development fees and good deals we had provided a steady revenue streams as well. But we see that we are in the early phases of the bigger growth where we aim at. We only have one live game in the market. We have a number of games in development. The more we are able to launch these good quality games in the market, the more our business is going to be built on the much higher profit consumer revenues, game sales. And at the same time, we would continue having multiple games in development. And that is the direction where we are aiming at. Then slide number 15. This just shows the longer term development we have had, that for a long time we have always managed our finances, but up until 2017, we were fully focused on one game project, and that was limiting the growth opportunities. That was the moment when we started the transformation, building the multi-project model, more focusing on our own IPs and brands. And in 2019, we first time saw some fruits of that continued in 2020, and the aim is to be a long-term growth company. Then slide number 16, please. Yes, this was a recent development a couple of weeks ago in order to support the possibility to self-finance and self-publish selected future games. We had a share issue and we just raised a bit over 40 million euros to support in the implementation of this strategy. So overall, instead of having 20 million euros, we now have a profitable growing business and a cash position of 60 million euros, which gives I would say a good basis to also execute on the strategy we have chosen. Then the slide number 17, please. So just on the outlook, so we are continuing according to the plans we have had. The aim is to launch at least one game or bigger game expansion every year. This year specifically, Crossfire X with our single player campaign, Crossfire HD with our single player campaign are launching with Smilegate. And overall, we expect 21 to be a good year, revenue to growth and also EBIT to growth. That's it on Remedy. Any questions? Please.
Thank you, Tero. We're a bit short on time, but I think I'll try to get one question in there. And you kind of touched upon this already, that one of your upcoming games, currently labeled Project Vanguard, as it kind of differs from what you usually tend to do in terms of genre and business model, also in that it's a free-to-play multiplayer game. And I was just wondering, how have you had to adapt internally in order to feel confident that you can succeed in this genre, which is quite competitive and might require expertise different from developing a single-player game in the traditional product-based model? Thank you.
It has required all that, and that is one of the reasons why we have been quite patient, taking our time. In our multi-project model, we are building some centralized competencies that can support all our game projects and using some benchmarks on how these games should work. But beyond that, we try to build game teams that are fairly autonomous. And the most important part is to create, and typically the bottleneck in this expansion is to create really experienced, highly qualified project leadership teams who have the kind of like CEO of the project, the EP, who has the development director, the daily project manager, creative director, technical director, product director focused on the business aspect, art director. And building these teams takes time, and they have to be spot on to the game. And with Vanguard, we have done exactly that, people with these competencies, and then fulfilling these teams with some of the Remedy expertise that can, in a way, bring the speciality of world building, character stories into the team. And now it seems that things have started to fall into places, but yes, it has taken time, already 2 years.
Thank you. I think, unfortunately, we're out of time,
Yeah.
but thank you, Tero, for joining us today and telling us more about Remedy.
Thank you.
Thank you.